And welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And now here's your trio of hosts, starting with Audrey's always later, never here, Ember, and Romina with the faces, and of course your dark lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, review, do all the things.
Oh, Roberto, look, I made up. It's a tree.
What the
with
heck?
Frogs.
Did you wait? Out of what?
They're frogs.
Frogs?
Okay, did you
I'm just
make?
kidding. I didn't make this, but it was a gift.
Okay,
From who?
My boyfriend.
the boyfriend, the elusive.
Did he make it? Did he make it?
He made the Legos.
Hey, I don't know. You know you can 3D print stuff, right?
It's true.
I'm not gonna undermine his abilities.
I want to
He
buy.
did not. I'm not impressed.
Okay. Oh,
Should've.
Audrey's not impressed. Y'all heard it here. The gift was
I get it.
did not leave an impression on Audrey. Everybody,
Damn.
you heard it here first on our episode 100. And what episode are we on, guys?
Jesus Christ, I don't even know.
122.
We've been doing this for almost 3 years. No, we've been doing almost the pandemic for almost 3 years. That's
Guys, what are we gonna do when we get to episode 420?
I have no idea.
Oh, never mind.
Audrey.
You know I don't do any vices.
Audrey.
I didn't see anything.
You didn't have to. You said enough.
We could all eat snacks together.
Oh yeah, we can eat snacks, all right.
I'll get some ice cream.
That's the closest.
Celebrate.
That's the closest I would do. Probably is like an edible is probably the closest I would do. I haven't done. I've never done drugs
What about ayahuasca?
voluntarily.
Ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca, I still like for other people, but the thing is, I'm not depressed anymore. So I'm like for other people, I approve.
What is ayahuasca?
It's like a tea drink, but it's not like a tea that you can just get anywhere. It's a psychedelic.
It's a psychedelic. It's had massive properties when it comes to helping people with their depression, anxiety. It's a mental reset and flush for people who have trauma and things like that.
It's supposed to help you see the things that you don't see and unlock potential.
A lot of people, again, I've had friends
I don't like potential.
I've had people,
also, wait, Roberto, we have to tell her the reality of it. So that's what happens in your mind. So physically, when you actually do ayahuasca, you have to go on a retreat. It's like a 3-day event minimum because
Is that when people are like dying?
Will be pooping and
like
throwing up.
It's when people go on a shaman quest. It's basically when people go on a shaman quest. They go on a spiritual journey of awakening.
But the reason is because, like the physical aspect of it, the ayahuasca, it makes you throw up and poop. Like there's physical side effects to it.
Can't do it.
So because of it, you can't do it alone. You need to have a shaman because there needs to be somebody there who's like medically guiding you. And then also you need the retreat portion of it because you have to like reflect on the hallucinations that you had. And then also you need to rehydrate your body because of, all the stuff that happened to you during the trip.
Yep.
That
So
sounds awful. Why?
yeah, well, I mean, some people.
It's why most people resort to it when they actually just need to turn life around when they hit rock bottom. When people hit rock bottom and they say,
When they're bored.
Or when they're bored.
So in Tim Ferriss's case, he actually does ayahuasca like 2 or 3 times a year. He does it like every quarter, or tries to.
That's a bit much, to be honest.
I mean, he does, but he doesn't do like a full thing. I believe he does like a small portion of it so that it's like a kind of like a refresher, but it's not like the full-on trip.
I'm of the mind that it's a once a decade thing. Like, because I feel like it should be.
I don't disagree with that.
Get your I believe that for me, I believe it's supposed to be like a cleansing thing of like I need to scrub the last decade of BS off of me, and like and detox my body and my mind. Like it's like a holistic detox your body, get all the shit out of your body, get all the shit out of your head, get all the like scum off your soul, and call it a day. And just like that's why I feel like it does, because again, it does a chemical thing. You have the hallucinations, that's the mental / spiritual aspects of it, and then you have the body cleansing. So it's like it's really just a purge and reset, and that's why I think the value of it is. And that's why when I joke about it in our DM group, when I say just dump ayahuasca into the water supply, like it's because like I feel like it's the only hope the world has left at this point is just send everybody on a spirit quest, and whoever comes back is fine. Whoever makes it back that's who gets,
right. That's who gets to be on top. Yeah.
That's who have society. It's not even about being on top. That's who gets to have society. That's who gets to be here.
Yeah. Well,
spirit quest or not, or you either come back from the spirit quest or you don't.
Spirit quest.
You either survive you either face your inner demons and survive, or you don't. But the thing is, once it's over, you're rid of them, and that's the exorcism. It's you survive the exorcism of your inner demons, or you don't. And that's how we do it. And then that's who gets to have society.
And you don't let them come back. You don't let the demons come back.
Yeah, it's like it's done. It's like one way or another. I think it's the only thing that's left for society at this point. Society, which I guess is a good segue into our topic. And I think TikTok is toxic as hell, and I believe that's destroying society. I believe.
Wow, I thought we were going to segue into my topic.
I
guess it could have gone both ways. It could have gone both ways, really. It could have gone both ways. Right. But you decided to choose violence first, and that's okay.
Bruh.
So would you like to tell us what your topic is for this evening after you hydrate?
Yeah, TikTok is toxic. The end.
The end. All right, cool. Audrey, you want to move on to your topic? That was a joke.
I believe that TikTok is the most dangerous of all. What I've come to the conclusion that this is why I only use social media for work now. I believe that social media is probably borderline for not everybody, but probably for the average person. For the average person, it's about as addictive as abusing any type of substance. It's as unhealthy as abusing any type of substance. It's as distracting and it's destructive. I believe that using social media, in particular TikTok, but I believe that at this point, using social media is like abusing Adderall. That's what I believe. I believe that's an abusive. I believe that's an abusive stimulant. I believe that using media is an abusive stimulant. I believe that if you look at all the literature, it has a lot of the same side effects mentally and triggers the same parts of the brain as people, and the same dopamine receptors as people taking speed or smack or meth.
There's a reason that. Well, it's not really a reason, but it's a very strong coincidence that people who use drugs are generally referred to as users, and people who are on platforms are usually called users. I don't think it's too much of a strong coincidence.
I believe social media is great for the economy. I think it's bad for most people.
I think that social media can be good in general, for society, like in general. For the individual, I think it is extremely dangerous, and I think that we haven't created seatbelts yet. It's essentially the car without a seatbelt.
I believe that if you're not using it for work or your career, that social media should be 90 minutes a day, and that's it, and nothing more. Or it's unhealthy.
Audrey, you were going to say something?
I coughed, but I'll say something. I did have social media for this entire weekend, and like I haven't been in a situation where like it's been more of like a willing thing where I've been like, I'm going to take off 2 weeks of no social media, and then I cheat the whole time. But this time I was literally in the middle of nowhere, so there was absolutely no like social media or anything. It was actually kind of great. I felt like I was in a different dimension. It was awesome.
We're
I
going
enjoyed
to
it
dive
personally.
more into that later when we
Yes.
talk about your creator camp.
When I went to Sony Camera Camp, you guys like almost never heard from me like almost the entire time I was there in Montana at Camera Camp. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of odd because we hear from Roberto every day.
Yeah, multiple times. And
Multiple times throughout the day.
all day, every day. And it was like, hey, you alive out there, bro? It's like, yeah, I was like, I didn't feel the need to be on there and post. I did also, when we went camping, aside from us watching the Logan Paul fight, we weren't on social media.
No.
We didn't even like Instagram, none of until later. We didn't do any live streaming. We didn't do nothing. We were just out there in the woods, and that's how it was. And that's what we did. And so I have the capacity to like outside of, but see, I'm on a work grind now. But I literally only use it for work. And you guys have seen it. You guys have seen that's like, I don't casually use any of it. I don't even casually use Twitter anymore. I use it intentionally. All I'm doing is posting like threads and replying to people and blah, 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 blah. I'm like not really messing around with it too much. I barely use it socially. There's a handful of friends I use Twitter with socially because it's the only place I talk to them. But you notice I'm not using social media casually anymore. I'm not even watching other people's YouTube videos anymore. I don't use it. That's how I'm so productive now. That's why I can get daily videos out and do all this shit and finish the book. I don't use it anymore. I only use it to work because I think it's toxic. I think it's unhealthy. I think it's addictive. And I think
this is actually kind of something that might be useful is I feel like a lot of a repeat theme that I see amongst our creator friends is a lot of people using the excuse of, well, I use social media for work, so I can't get rid of it. How have you created some kind of system? How have you been able to manage working on social media, but then avoiding the social aspect of it?
Airplane mode and allocating. Well, one, I've been texting y'all. I text y'all. So that's not social media. That's literally just me texting people. So I'm texting and calling people a little bit more lately. So I text and I call people, but I also don't use it. Like I spend more time. I spend most of my day, instead of using social media as entertainment, I just listen to audiobooks and podcasts now. I listen to audiobooks and podcasts. The YouTube stuff that I do is all listenable. It's not watching, so there's no stimulation for the screen. And I like put everything in audio mode and I lock my screen. I put everything in audio mode and I lock my screen. When I need productivity, I put it on airplane mode and I don't really do it. When I'm on my laptop, I'll put my laptop on do not disturb and I will sit there in an app and I'll sit there in whatever I'm working on for 90 minutes. I'll sit there until I clear a certain amount of my inbox. I'll sit there until I finish an edit. I'll sit there until a task I follow through on a task. I sit there because I'm rebuilding my attention span. And it's to rebuild my attention span. I cannot have hyperactive content that's sitting there as hyper edited. So what do? I only watch and listen to long form type content passively, and I don't let it take my attention. I do see YouTube shorts and TikToks, but I like when I go to YouTube shorts, I'm only doing it like 30 minutes at a time, like for 30 minutes. And that's like it. Just kind of like how you'd watch a 30-minute TV show and that's it. So like, that's, but the thing is I also allocate downtime to here's my recreational time today. Everyone's talking about like burnout and this and that and working too hard. I don't believe people are working too hard. I don't think they're working hard enough. And that's not about laziness. I don't think people are working hard enough in the sense of I don't think people are intentional. I don't think people are purposeful. I don't think people are disciplined. I think people think that they need more time off and relaxation than they actually do. Because here's what I believe. I believe between television, Netflix, video games, TikTok, and social media, I believe that people are so over addicted to stimulation that's why they're always exhausted, not because of their, yes, you might be dissatisfied or you might have a physically demanding job, but people have had unsatisfying, physically demanding jobs for years. But when they came home, they never wanted to watch more than 90 minutes of television. They never wanted to watch more than 2 or 3 TV shows in the news. They like 90 minutes. and that was it. And it wasn't hyper edited. It was semi-realistic. So it was because they couldn't do all those cuts, it's like they didn't have the technology back then. So they weren't overstimulated. It wasn't triggering all this stuff. You didn't have the blue light like we have now. You didn't. So like, that's all they wanted. That's all they needed. What would they do with their free time when they come home? People would come home and they do their stuff around the house. They'd spend time with their family, or they'd go out physically to a place and interact with people. They'd go to the bar. They'd go to the bowling alley. They'd go to something. They'd go to dinner. So like for me, the thing that keeps me from all this is I've been going to the local restaurants that are like close to my house. I've been walking to a lot of them since they're walking distance, walking to places. Well, you can't always, unless you're on a phone call or something, you can't be unaware and unaloof. You get hit by a car that way, or something else. I'm in a safe place, so I don't have to be as safety conscious. It's just really the cars going by, stuff like that. You don't want to necessarily be out doing that at a restaurant or a place. It ends up being kind of rude. So you don't necessarily do that. You get to focus on your meal. You get to have some quiet downtime. So, I mean, so it's just a matter of better habits. It's just like,
how are you keeping up with your work side of things on social media? So like you mentioned, like with YouTube that you use a lock screen and you have like audio that you only really consume like audio only stuff. But like, how do you update your Twitter? How do you update your Instagram? Like, can you walk us through a little bit of that?
Do you automate Twitter still?
I do a little bit. I need to do more. I need to do more Twitter automation. I do a little bit when I remember to set it up. But I reply to everything as me. And that I reply to people. I don't leave people hanging. But the thing is, I allocate time to it. That's not time that is partitioned or allocated or allotted to something else. So that's how I handle it. It's time that's not allocated to something else. Because again, when I say people don't work hard enough, I think it's a discipline thing. I think that they literally do not sit there and ration out their hours and say, I have this many hours to do this a day. I have this much time. I have this many minutes to do this and everything like that. Ration out your day. And you don't have to go as far as calendar blocking. I do. I try to stick to it, but it's like, I know that there's a block of time that's okay. This is the podcast. You know what I'm saying? I know there's a block of time that here's the podcast. I also know that I'm on this 30-day upload this 1 month, 31-day upload challenge of, all right, whenever it gets out, I get a video out and I don't go to bed before I do that. That's that. So I have things that have to get done. And so anything that I do that's not about getting those things done it's a delay. And I go, well, you can't go to bed until you do that. You can't have any time for video games to do that. You can't have any Netflix until these things are done. So you're not going to get that reward if that thing doesn't get done. You're not going to get that free time. So you might as well not distract yourself. So that's that's the kind of thing. It's holding myself accountable. But it's incredibly difficult. It's like you have to be disciplined. If you don't do it, then you fall into a habit really easily. So I think one of the big things is don't engage in arguing or debating anyone online. That becomes a time suck. That becomes addictive. That becomes a problem. So I don't do it. It's basically, I try to eliminate I do not want social media to be unproductive, because if it's unproductive, then it's about it being a stimulant. So the thing is, if it's unproductive, and if it's not specifically, because the social aspect of it is, well, okay, I need to maintain some of these relationships. And it's fine. It's not that I'm making those people, quote unquote, work or making those relationships as work, but I do need to view them as something purposeful, intentional, and valuable that I'm honoring a commitment. So the thing is, I don't view it as recreational. If I look at my social media, if I eliminate the idea of social media being recreational and social media being fun, then it's not something to get addicted to. I just don't I don't hate the process of my work. I enjoy my work, but I'm not looking at it as a recreational hobby. And that's what's keeping me accountable and making it healthier in my life.
But what about for casual consumers?
I think that they should cut it out. I think that they should limit themselves to 30, 60, or 90 minutes of social media, period. Full stop, across all their damn apps, and that's it. Because if they don't, they're literally, what are you doing with your life if you have 4 hours and you're not making money doing it, right? And it's not part of your career, it's not part of your job. Okay, you're gonna really give 4 hours of unproductive monetized time to this that's not making you healthier physically, not making you smarter mentally, not making you more financially stable in life, and then you're going to complain about your life? Shut the hell up then. I have no sympathy anymore. If you are spending 4 hours recreationally on social media a day on average, if I tell you to post your damn screen time and I find that you have spent 20 hours recreationally in 7 days on social media and you complain about money to me, you deserve to be goddamn broke then.
And social media isn't your job.
And social media isn't your job. And social media isn't your job. And you're not monetized doing it. If you're not making money on social media and you spend 20 hours a week on it, do not cry to me about your hopes and dreams. Don't say I wish anything. Don't say I wish I was this.
Hopes and dreams.
Don't wish I say I had this income. Don't complain to me about how much money you make. Don't complain to me about your boss. Don't complain to me about anything. You have squandered your life. Making other people rich, by the way, when you consume their shit. So don't complain to me about nothing. It's you.
Does that answer your question, Audrey?
Yes.
Audrey's like, I didn't want to get yelled at.
Harsh as hell. That's what people need at this point. At this point, people need a damn adult. People need an adult. People need an adult to tell them what to do at this point.
Well, that's why you're the senior in this podcast.
Old man Roberto. Oh, back in my day. Back in my day, this problem wouldn't exist. Which is true.
But also, these apps and stuff didn't exist.
That's my point.
Yeah.
You can timeline the increase in comorbidities, morbid obesity, increase in anxiety. You can correlate it exactly to the advent of the scaling of the iPhone. And you can scale.
It's kind of wild.
And you can scale, and you can look at social media platform adoption, and then you can run a chart of social media platforms. Someone who's a data cruncher, do this. Go ahead and do this. Somebody fan of the show, do this. Run a data chart of when the social media platform's growth adoption, and then run that against the increased reported numbers of depression, anxiety, obesity, comorbidities, depression, all of that, and you'll just see an exact correlation.
Yep. Gotta be careful, man.
And the worst of TikTok.
Ooh,
I
it all
agree.
comes full circle.
TikTok is like where I go when I want to just turn off my brain.
See, but you're doing it consciously. But that's something that you can turn off.
Your on switch isn't broken.
Well, like if I want to consume something and not think about it,
I'm saying
not make any decisions.
to turn your brain back on, to have self-control, to be disciplined and get work done because you still hustle and you get work done, and to turn your brain back on and to critically think, to turn your brain back on and not be influenced by what you consume. You still have and have retained that capacity because you're a person of discipline, but the average person, they don't have it. They don't have
It's like crack.
Right.
TikTok is crack. That should be the title of this.
No, we'll get suppressed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
A little bit of worship we get.
My daily average for Twitter. Guess.
5 hours.
2.
I'm kidding.
What did you say, Roberto? 2?
2.
Is 1 hour and 28 minutes.
Good for you.
And I will say, I don't have Instagram on my phone. And my YouTube is 22 minutes. But I use YouTube to meditate sometimes. So I have like guided meditations and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't really count YouTube as like a social media thing because I don't treat it like that.
YouTube for me partly doesn't count based on the fact that I let it run in the background all day for like audio.
Yeah.
And I let it run for music in the background.
I use Twitter, the Twitter app, to easily respond to people who have commented on my content. I don't really scroll too much on my timeline. I do use the Explore tab quite a bit on Twitter because I kind of use it just to get like headlines and see it like if the world's falling apart. So that's my usage with Twitter. It's not really like but that's it, guys. That's all I got on my phone. That's social media. I don't have TikTok on my phone. I don't have Instagram. I don't got none of that.
Yeah. No, my
Oh, I just took a screenshot.
My screen time is weird because again, mine is due to leaving it on in the background because it is like if I use what's your screen time for the week, Roberto? My screen time for the entire week it has 12 hours of YouTube, but that's because I literally just let it run in the background to listen to music.
Yeah, but click on the actual applications and see what the daily average is.
Let's see.
For your social media ones.
For YouTube, weirdly, it says that it's 2 hours, which I think could be more, to be honest with you, because of how I use it. Let's see. My daily average for messages is an hour. My daily average for Twitter, but again, kind of, but not really. Because the other thing is actually with Twitter, I've been actually listening to Twitter Spaces more. It says 2 hours, but again, it's part of my job. But I've also been listening to Spaces. But a normal person, that should be
That's the thing too. Is because I spend a lot of time in Twitter Spaces too.
Yeah. So like,
I'm looking at the same screen for like an hour.
Like my daily average in Instagram is 14 minutes.
Wow.
My daily average in Clubhouse, 14 minutes. YouTube Studio, 35 minutes. And YouTube is part of obviously my job, but like looking at my analytics in Studio on my phone, that's it. Reddit, 10 minutes.
Audrey.
Daily average, 7 minutes.
Audrey. Hold on. Wait a second. We're about to have a revelation. Roberto.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey. Are you gonna tell us what your daily average is?
Actually, my last week is not bad because I was again on my phone most of it. So I will gladly share because this is definitely inaccurate. So last week my average on YouTube was an hour and 11 minutes, which is not accurate. I'm definitely
for the week,
for the day, per day.
Oh, okay. You have to click in the actual app.
It believes my daily average on social media to be 3 hours a day, but the way it's counting it is weird because what it believes is that I spend, what does it believe? Well, it believes also it's counting, it's because here's the thing, it's averaging for daily averages, it's averaging my Twitter, but there's Twitter Spaces skewing that.
Yeah.
It's counting as social. Believe it or not, it's counting my messages. So it's counting my Messenger app. It's counting Apple iMessage.
I don't look at that.
But
I just look at each one individually because
I don't categorize. I just looked at categories.
I don't like the categories though because I can't customize that.
Yeah. But it believes I spend 2 hours on YouTube, which, okay, fine. That's like fine. Because again, it's mostly passive. It believes I spend 2 hours a day on Twitter. Okay, fine. But again, on every other app, you've seen that like I've been healthy as fuck. Like
Audrey, you got to click on all activity and then click on the actual app under most
I checked.
used.
It's kind of the same. It's saying an hour right now, but I definitely watch more than an hour typically. For per day.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, it says an hour, and then I also have an hour on TikTok. So.
Oh.
Per day.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Yeah. It's not that bad. I also don't watch any TV shows or any other entertainment.
That's
This is, like,
fair.
the only
That's fair
entertainment I
because I do watch a lot of movies.
I only do it on the weekend, basically. I only watch that stuff on the weekend. I haven't queued up, but also again, like my TV in my room is not being as good. So again, I come downstairs, but that's like also somewhat of an effort to like.
Yeah,
so,
you've added an extra step to do it.
exactly. And I keep my remotes far away from me, so it's like I make it really.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I'm a movie person. I need to watch movies. Like I watch movies all day. Like, I mean, every day, not all day.
Was it a Freudian slip?
Yeah, it was. I wish I was watching movies all day. I used to, but that was my university. So
I used to spend a lot more time vegging out and vices, and I spent the pandemic doing that. That's why I'm not interested anymore. I'm like, what am I going to watch in Netflix or Crunchyroll for the most part? What am I going to binge? And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on a weekend. I'm going to do it on a weekend because who cares? And I don't have anything to do. Like, well, I may have stuff to do, but it's like, I'm like, what are we going to do on a weekend? So like I need to go out more on the weekend, to be honest, but I just like hard for me sometimes to see the point.
So I think this is actually a pretty good segue into the next topic.
Okay.
My topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking a little bit about something that I was dealing with a couple weeks ago was idea/project overwhelm. And it's having so many ideas or projects to want to jump on at the same time and having them all feel like they are a priority, and which obviously isn't the case. And so something that was, I think, a revelation was the fact that these projects that were coming up were distractions for the actual projects that I wanted to and needed to be working on, which for me personally is my nonfiction book. And so I was coming up with other projects and other things that I wanted and needed to work on, needed in quotes, because mentally I was distracting myself, right? I was trying to come up with other things that were so important that it was a good excuse. And this was subconsciously, right? But it's like, oh, like this is important. This is a good excuse for me to not work on this thing.
Yeah.
And so something that I did was I spent a day where I had a reflection day, and I examined what was really important to me and what I needed to do. And what I ended up with was doing coming up with three major goals of what I want to accomplish. And then moving forward, all of my tasks and everything that I do day in and day out are things that will contribute to those three goals. So, for example, like Roberto was just talking about wanting to go out or like do stuff on the weekends kind of thing. That is the sort of thing that would go under my own personal goal, which is to have an active life. And that's a big like overarching goal. And I feel like any activity, event, anything that comes up, if it contributes to that, then it isn't a distraction. It's something that moves that progresses that bigger goal. And so I think that by analyzing what I was working on and what I was what I was prioritizing has helped me to reach this level of clarity where I can focus on the right things and the right projects. I think it's important to have those moments where you do kind of think about like what's actually important and what you're really spending your time on every week, because those hours do creep in and they kind of like disappear. And so I think it's important to think about it because you want to be intentional with your time. And like Roberto, you were kind of talking about that earlier too, where you're talking about intentionality and like it's not really so much like working hard, but working smart and working with intention and being proactive with the things that you prioritize. Because when you are like all three of us, I think we are people who are multifaceted, and we have a variety of skills and ideas, and we're passionate about a lot of different things that spread over an array of different skill sets. And that sort of thing can be overwhelming in the sense that we kind of want to do a lot of different things. And so I think that when it gets to that point, it is important to really think about what's most important, because then you think that everything is important, and that's not true.
It's not only that you want to do those things, it's that part you need to feel like you're not squandering the gifts that you have. Like if you don't do so, like again, for a long time I felt really salty about like, when did I ever take the time to master my photography and to like really do something with that for me, not and not to make not even to make money, just to also have just even like for myself, but also just tiny sliver of recognition of people who are saying, oh damn, you are a legit photographer. You are not just what we see in terms of the YouTube thing that you've monetized or everything, like, or that you're not just an information hub. It's like, oh, for me, I personally needed a little bit of, I needed to be acknowledged as a creative who is capable of a high grade of being like a world-class photographer. I needed a little bit, not everybody in the world. I just need a few people to just finally give me my flowers on that, because I always wanted to be a photographer. I always wanted to be someone who could make high caliber, amazing photos and shots. I had all the gear in the world, and then I was using it to make YouTube videos that my gear is somewhat overkill, but I want to give my viewers the best experience. But it's like what I do is overkill for YouTube, and it's really because deep down I wanted to, I kept telling myself, I'll get around to it. I will travel and I will take these great world-class shots and everything. And the thing is, right here in Atlanta, there's enough for me to do with that gear, and I just wasn't doing it. And so that's why I did that during the pandemic, and it was like my therapy to help during the pandemic. That's why this year I went to Shutterfest after skipping the last one before the pandemic, because I wasn't speaking at it that time, which now I think ironically out there gonna have me back next year to speak again, because Sal's a good friend, and like, now COVID's over, and he was happy to see me show up and, do that and just purely enjoy doing the photography side and not the business side. So I did some of the best. You saw my portraits. You saw what I was able to get, like with a light that I'd never even used before. So it's like, okay, if you have these creative gifts, if you're a multifaceted creator like we are, it's like, but then there's something you have to do to make money. When do you get around to doing the other things to honor the rest of your gifts? When do you do that thing with your photography, or when do you do that thing with your music, or like me finally writing the book and you finally writing the book? We have it in us to write and to do long form thought, not just stream of consciousness, and to organize and sort those thoughts into something that's readable and thoughtful. And then it's like, but what do we have to represent that? I stopped writing blogs regularly, which I want to go back to. I want to get my inner Seth Godin. But like having a published book is something to show, to say, yes, I am a writer and I'm good enough to be right. And I have people who've reviewed my book and bought my book and enjoyed my book and had things to say, and it gave them thoughts and inspired them. Like it's a legacy, but it's also you can't ever tell me I'm not a writer. Where's your body of work? Where's your published book? You can't. So, no one can ever tell me I'm not a good photographer, because look at like what I have in my portfolio to say, yeah, yes, I am.
But I think it's important also to note that yes, you were able to do these things, but also you set aside a phase in your life,
Yes.
you made it so that you could focus on just
compartmentalize my life to
that part. Yeah, because like there was a while there where you sort of decreased like the number of videos that you were working on.
Yep.
And also your blog posts. Also, you weren't you weren't doing Instagram as much, I think.
Yep.
You kind of decreased all these other areas in your life so that you could spend more time writing your book, and that's why you completed it, right?
I focused on here's a big project at a time, or here's a area of my life at a time, and trying to be healthy and trying to cope. And now, ironically, since having had COVID and gotten over it, I no longer have to allocate mental energy to coping with the pandemic anymore. Because for me, it's like, okay, I had it, I lived, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm like, let's go. And it's also been 2 or 3 years. I'm like over it. I'm like, no, I've confronted it. I've faced the demons. I'm like, so everyone else can do what they want. I'm like done. I'm done. I'm not doing the next lockdown. I'm not doing it. This new monkeypox thing. I'm not doing it. I'm not interested. I don't care. Living my life. I'm living my life, tracing my dreams, back on that grind, back on that hustle. Toxic, call it selfish, call it whatever. It's my life and everything like that. And yeah, and someone can say it's a Chris, do you, buddy? Do you? You can say it's a shit take. You can say it's a shit take. I am done. I'm taking my goddamn life back. I was depressed. I almost fucking killed myself during this pandemic. I'm serious. No, fuck all of that. Fuck all of you. I'm taking my life back, and everybody do what the fuck they want. No, I'm living my life. It's over. It's over for me. It's been 3 damn years.
You're scaring Audrey.
3 years of my life was stolen from me, and I'm taking every life back because I don't.
You just unmute so that you could just shake your head.
Tomorrow's not problem. It's like I have immune compromised people in my family. You don't even know what my situation is and everything like that. And everybody can do what they want. Like over 75% of adults in this country are vaccinated. And if we haven't moved the needle on that and everything like that, I feel bad. I feel sorry for everybody who's immune compromised. I also feel bad for people who are literally born with stuff that they can't deal with all the time and everything like that. It's like, Chris, you don't know who's in my family who has cancer. My family is full of people who are cancer survivors or who didn't. My grandmother died of cancer. So shut up. I'm sorry. Nope, not interested. No, not interested. I am done. I'm like, tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. My depression is real. The people, all right, you like, okay, it's not about screw all those people. It's not about screw all those people. It's about the fact that there's nothing more I can do. I took the damn vaccine. I locked down my life for 3 years. I gave my dues. I paid my dues. Enough is enough. How much? What do you want? We want 5 years of my life? How many years do I have? I don't know. You're not getting 5 years of my life. Make them figure it out. Make them figure it out. Make them figure it out. How much more? We destroyed the economy. We destroyed jobs. There's people here in Georgia, like, that never recovered, not from the pandemic, but from the repercussions financially, and they lost everything. What about them? They were never made whole. They were never made whole. Where's their reparations? Where's the rebuilding of their businesses? Where's the rebuilding of their businesses? What are they going to do about all the people who lost their mortgages? What are they going to do for them? This is 2008 all over again when they screwed over people in 2008 with the crash. Now there's a recession on top of everything else. There's still supply chain issues and everything like that. It's like, what is enough is enough? When is enough is enough? When is enough?
Someone else having problems doesn't mean that your problems are any less.
No, it doesn't.
I think that
and we've had problems, by the way. There are people, we've had immune compromised people in my family for the longest time in my life and everything like that.
Yeah.
Where was all the damn healthcare reform? Where was the healthcare reform? Where was the prenatal care? When my mom was financially struggling as a single mother, where was the prenatal care for women? We do all these movements, everything. Where was prenatal care? Where was the legislation for it? Where was postnatal care? Where was the legislation for it? What did they do? What? Nothing. I've been alive almost 40 goddamn years. They haven't done anything. Blah, 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 blah. Everything. There's not a single meaningful piece of legislation that has helped working class people, lower middle class people, and people who are really struggling. There's not been a single in my entire goddamn life, not a single piece of meaningful executed legislation at scale for people who are struggling. I had to lift my whole damn family out of poverty myself. So I don't want to hear it from people. I'm not interested. Everyone has to live their life and do the best they can, and they have to face their struggles and face their demons head on. And if we were going to do things for people who are immunohealth compromised, we should have done a long damn time ago. They write a piece of legislation, I'll vote for it. They write a piece of legislation to financially subsidize that stuff. They figure out a way to tell us how they're going to pay for it transparently. They don't take a single penny of misappropriating the money with pork and grifting people, and I'll vote for it. I'll effing vote for it. But until then, I don't want to hear it, because I'm not giving another year of my life not knowing what tomorrow holds for anybody. And it's not a shit take. That's how everyone has lived their lives up until recently for some reason, everything like that. And I'm not going to sit here and let people gaslight me into some deranged bullshit of giving up my life not knowing what is not or is not promised to me because they want to, like, again, pretend that we haven't had people suffering this entire time with all kinds of manner of illness and all kinds of matters of financial struggle and burden and everything like that. We can't figure out how to solve 600,000 people in this country being homeless, 250,000 unsheltered and everything like that. Despite the fact that somehow, some way, we managed to lock up 3 million people in this country, have them incarcerated, pay $90 billion a year every freaking year for that. And we can't figure out helping people at the very, very bottom in the worst situation. We can't manage to figure out a fraction of that. I don't want to hear it.
Word. Now, back to the regular programming.
Sorry about that.
You're not wrong.
I did my part. I paid.
No, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we don't appreciate the guilt tripping, and
roundhouse kicked anyone who fucking guilt trips me ever again.
Nobody knows what every individual is going through, and we're all trying our best. At least some of us are.
Most people have been doing their best. Most people have been doing their best, trying to get by, and they've been kicked in the fucking teeth for it, and where they have to show for it. So everybody needs to think about what kind of life they want to live, and they need to go ahead. They need to make the most of it. They need to get everything, squeeze every drop out of every day, and not apologize because other people feel bad about it. Or feel some kind of way about it, or feel some kind of way about it. Because by the way, when other people get theirs, and it inconveniences you, or it affects your situation negatively, or it impacts you, or it offends you, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about when anything they get inconveniences you. They don't care about whatever their situation inconveniences you. They don't care how it affects your situation at all. So, what's the point?
So we were talking about intentionality. I'm not exactly sure where you were going with that. I don't really remember the start of your sentence, but Audrey, do you have anything to say about idea and project overwhelm? Okay.
Wait, what?
Idea and project overwhelm.
Oh, I'm still trying to figure that out, so I'll get back to you never when I finally figure that out. Oh god.
Okay, so I think the general idea before we move on to Audrey's topic is what I found that works is having an overarching goal, a large goal. I mean, it can have multiple goals, like I have 3, but they're large goals, and having every daily or weekly task be something that moves you towards that goal. And if it doesn't, then maybe it's something that you need to either delegate or outsource or get rid of. Because if it's not moving you towards your goals, then there's no reason for you to work on it. But you really have to decide, what is my goal? Like for Roberto, it was finishing his book, right? For my goal right now, it's working on my book. And I think that having that intentionality really helps to push forward the daily and weekly tasks so that you don't get distracted with these ideas that are all of a sudden so important that you decide to put those tasks aside. You're just like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing. I decided that I want to start doing gardening. I want to start a farm, and that's what I'm going to do now. And then all of a sudden, you're focusing on that, and then you've stopped working on the thing that you were working on.
I think you have to give yourself an allotted time, like when we were kids and they gave us recess. You have to have recess. You have to give yourself recess, and that could be daily or every other day, or it could be the weekend or whatever. You have to give yourself free days, and you have to give yourself a free period, like a study hall or a recess where you can just do other things. By the way, also, I know it's sensitive for everybody. These things are sensitive. So I want to kind of apologize to Chris in the fact that it's because that whole shit take thing just triggered me, because it's another guilt trip after 2 or 3 years of guilt trips and complying with the guilt trips and more coming down the road. And it's just very triggering for me. It's triggering for a lot of people. But I also understand that people is like, but again, I think it's also BS to also then throw and guilt trip people with saying immune compromised people. A lot of members of my family are immune compromised, and you don't know our situation. You don't know my situation. You don't know that. So to make an assumption that and besides, do I hold everybody for accountable to what's real for me and what my struggles are? Just because I have a good financial situation doesn't mean that I don't have all these mental health struggles from years and years of trauma and things like that. And being, I don't hold everybody hostage because I was racially profiled and violently assaulted and then treated like a perp by the cops when I was a victim. I don't spend every day of my life holding people to task for that or guilting people for that, even when it happened to me, I didn't do that. Right afterward, there's a lot of things that if I was going to go down that road, of holding everybody hostage or accountable for that, I could do it. There's a long list. It's a laundry list. It's a very long list. So I don't do it because I don't think that's reasonable or fair to do, to make my problems everyone else's problems. I take my problems my way, and
it's also not fair for you too, because you don't learn to let go.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it. It's not healthy. And I think that we can be sympathetic, we can be empathetic to people, but I think there's also a limit to where it just becomes toxic, and it becomes abusive, and it becomes emotional manipulation to keep asking and expecting things from people because of your situation that doesn't have something to do with them, and it's not their reality, and it's not their circumstance and everything like that. So I think the guilt, the blame, the burden to people and saying, well, my situation or this group of people's situation, everything like that's no,
it's just not nice.
Priority is for people's first priority is and should be their own circumstances. And
it's just not nice. I mean, even if your life was perfect, and you weren't dealing with anything, there's no reason to guilt you into feeling bad or feeling guilty over somebody else's shortcomings.
Chris, Chris, the people that's having an impact for, it's real for them. And the things that happen in my family are real for us, but I don't make it other people's problem. I took it on myself to deal with the problems of my entire direct household and some of my extended family members.
It is the way.
I do not have room for anything else.
It is the way in which you bring these people's problem to light. Yeah. That's the problem, because we're very well aware of the fact that there are people who have problems, but that does not minimize the impact of our personal problems in our lives. Yeah. Because you don't know. And that's the problem. So you could have just said, there's a bunch of people who have this problem. It's still an impact for them. Think about them. But you didn't say that. You said shit take.
I have people with cancer. So saying screw all the kids with cancer. I have people in my family with cancer. My father's
it's the sarcasm that's the problem.
I lost 2 of my grandparents to cancer. I lost 2 of my cancer.
And I think Roberto doesn't mean to single you out. It's in general. It's the sarcasm, it's the manipulation, it's the way that it's said, because the information is important. It's important that these people are still suffering. Yeah. But there's people who are suffering with a lot of things every day. It doesn't minimize our problems.
We have a massive drug and opioid epidemic that was exacerbated by the pandemic and the lockdowns and the lack of community and the lack of resources. We had people who already were marginalized that didn't have resources the entire time, then have that further exacerbated by COVID and everything. There's any number of things. There's a limit to, before you literally have a mental health decline, there's a limit to how many things can be on your plate and how many things can be on your mind. It does tie back to this thing when we talked about overwhelm. If we can't, just when we're trying to be productive in new projects, we can't do it all at once, and we can't have everything be top of mind, and we have to pick and we have to choose. And now we have all these other emotional things of how many people we have to think of and how many people, think of the this, think of the that, think of the that. And then how much room is left to take care of ourselves? And that's why people can't take care of themselves anymore. If you're wondering why depression and suicide and suicidal ideation and drug overdose and binge eating, if you're wondering why all of that exacerbated itself during the pandemic, it's because people have been emotionally spread too thin and they put too much on their plate and they're burdened by too much. And so it's not unreasonable or unfair to say for everybody who that's not their struggle probably needs to allocate more of their time and more of their energy to confronting their struggles, or they're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to. And that's what's happening to people. That's what's happening to people. So I love that you advocate and you do stuff for people who struggle with Crohn's, colitis, and COVID, and all of those things, everything like that. There's things I advocate for, and there's things I help, and there's things I support and causes I support too. What I don't do is I don't go around. There's so much stuff, and Audrey and Romina know about this. I do not, and I'm not accusing you of this, but also don't ignore COVID. I can give you a list of 20 things that I could decide that if you ignore the 20 things that I decide to care about and everything, I could decide that shit taken, you're a bad person, everything like that. Are you willing to accept the burden of absolutely having to give energy to the 20 things and the 20 things on my list that I say you cannot and are not allowed to ignore? Do I get to command that? Do I get to dictate that? Do I get to dictate that? Do I get to dictate that? I spent 2.5 years, almost 3 years of my life doing nothing but think about nothing but COVID. It's not mentally healthy. No, I'm ignoring goddamn COVID from now on. You know why? It's not mentally healthy for me. I'm going to fucking kill myself if I have to think about COVID. I'm done. I'm done. It's not mentally healthy for me. It's not mentally healthy for me. You do you. You do you. You do you. You need to worry about COVID. You worry about COVID. You're immune compromised. Mask up. Get a 4th vaccination. Do whatever you have to do. Do whatever you have to do when it comes to COVID. I'm not going to do it. I went and saw a therapist. I went and saw a fucking therapist. You don't know. You don't know shit. I saw a goddamn therapist. It's probably why I'm still here. You don't know. You don't know. You don't get to dictate what other people have to do for their lives because you don't know. You don't know. You do what's good to protect your life. You do what's good to protect you. And I've done enough to protect other people. I've done it. 75% of adults in this country have done it. Don't ask us for more shit. We're in a recession now. Don't ask us for anything more. We don't have anything left to give. We don't have anything left to give. We are out of energy and we're out of time.
Chris, I think now's a good time to stop with your responses for a little bit.
A reasonable response? I don't need to have a reasonable response to this. I don't. 3 years. 3 years. The cost of my mental health. 3 years. 3 years of being in a black hole of freaking depression. No. No. Of course I'm triggered by it. Of course I'm triggered by it. I don't need to have a reasonable response to losing 3 years of my life that I will never get back. No one has to have a reasonable response to that. It was an unreasonable thing that happened.
I think also when you trigger somebody, you have to expect that the way that they respond is the way that they're going to respond.
You don't sit there and you don't accuse someone of that. You don't tell somebody, you don't dictate terms to somebody, and then you don't get to decide what's an appropriate response for them to have in that moment. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. It's asking too much. It's asking too much. And that's then what this problem is. It's infringing on other people's boundaries that they've set because they have the right to live their life. They have the right to live their life. I've done what has been asked of me. I've complied with what's been asked of me. And I am at the limit at which I've decided that is an acceptable and reasonable thing for people to ask of me. And that is that. And that's a fine and that's appropriate. And I'm within my rights. It's within the law and it is fine. And if you want to decide that everything about my character is reduced to that one aspect of it, then so be it. And we can part ways, my friend. And you can decide that I'm the shittiest person in the goddamn world. I'm the most evil person. I'm the dark lord of all things evil and everything. And I'm an eldritch abomination and I'm inhumane and all that good shit and everything. And you can feel that way about me. And you can disregard all the way I've lived my life up until now around this one thing that matters to you and everything like that. And so be it. And so be it. So be it. I am done pleasing people anymore. It's my life. It's my life. I fought to keep it. I get to live it as I choose. That's what freedom is. That's what freedom is. You want to live without freedom? Go to China. You want a zero COVID plan? Go to China. They have a great COVID response.
Maybe, Chris, if you'd like to continue this conversation with Roberto, you can tag him on Twitter.
No,
but I think that for now,
please don't.
For now, we're going to move on.
Unfollow me, unsubscribe. I don't care.
We're going to move on.
Guys.
Audrey, you need to talk about your topic.
I know, but it's also been an hour and I told people I was going to do something soon.
Okay.
Well, you showed up 30 minutes late, so
I know.
It's my bad. She's got priorities. She's got people waiting on her. It's my bad for hijacking the thing by letting a comment trigger me. But as you guys already know personally, it's not one comment. It's been this entire thing built.
Sure.
And it's in general that there's a bunch of sanctimonious celebrities and sanctimonious streamers every goddamn day, virtue signaling to high hell about how good and virtuous they are because they do the right thing. That is the approved thing to do right now in the whatever we're all supposed to be emotionally upset about at the moment, whatever the new crisis is every goddamn
It seems like you've let some of it out of your system, so we're going to move on. And Audrey, you want to tell us a little bit about what Creator Camp was like?
I mean, I can tell you a quick summary, but I do have to go soon, so I'm gonna keep it short.
What's your ETA? What time? How much time do you have?
I told my friends an hour, and it's been an hour since we started. So, yeah, I can go for like 5 minutes, but I don't want to do longer than that because they're waiting on me.
That's fine.
Okay.
But it was really fun. It was like 35 creators in the middle of nowhere in Colorado for 3 days with no Wi-Fi. And there wasn't that many activities or anything. It was super chill. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of cool people. And I didn't know like half the people there, or most of them. So it's kind of fun that like...
So how did you find out about it? How did you get invited? Are these things you can tell us?
Yep. So one of my friends... actually is like one of the founders for it. So I had helped a little bit with the scheduling and stuff and finding like girls to go. And so he invited me. I met him at the Samsung thing earlier this year.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you barely knew the people who were there. What was it like? Were you all staying in like a big cabin? What would tell us the logistics? It was
a giant cabin. It was awesome. It was very nice. Like the place was kind of old and like there was board games and stuff. And since there's no Wi-Fi, literally everyone was just like playing instruments or board games the whole time. It was pretty cool.
Were you able to make phone calls and stuff? You were texting us.
No, I wasn't. Not those 3 days.
Oh, it was 3 days. Right. Okay, so that's what it was.
Yeah, I was texting you guys before.
Right. And then I think you texted me after. Because I think I texted you at some point and then I didn't hear from you for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's when it was.
That's when I disappeared off the planet for 3 days.
Wow. Okay. So you can get in touch with anybody? What if
the
y'all
Wi-Fi
got
was
murdered?
really bad.
How did you trust these people?
There was Wi-Fi, but like it was absolute garbage. So like you could text a little bit, but like I wasn't really checking my phone. Yeah.
So if we
got murdered, like in a horror movie, yeah, we could have contacted someone.
You could have figured it out. Okay, yeah, that's all I needed to know. Okay, no, because I mean, you just said you went to a cabin somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no signal with people you barely knew. It sounds a little sus. I don't know how you managed to get your mom to approve that one. But...
Oh, she didn't approve it.
Wait, what? Tell us more.
I mean, she didn't really care. I think she's used to me doing weird stuff at this point. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to a cabin in the middle of nowhere with 30 other creators. She's like, okay.
Wow.
But it was great.
It does sound like a horror movie. It really does.
It does.
Yeah. And you know what? They even had like cameras. So they would have been filming found footage.
It would have been...
It would have been that found footage.
It would have been the found footage.
Everyone's vlogging. That's awful. No, it was very wholesome.
So I have a question. In terms of like the creator aspect of it, was there like a schedule? Did you guys have activities? Like,
It
was there
was
anything in
super
particular you
loose.
filmed?
There was like one activity a day, and it was like we did Olympics one day and then like a hike the other day. So it was very, very chill. And the rest of the time was mostly just hanging out. And there was one talk, but it was 45 minutes. So that's literally it. Like I
One
actually
talk?
really
Who was
loved
talking?
one of the sponsors like had a rep there and he did a talk.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
What was this thing?
Who was the sponsor? Can you say?
Koji. His name is Paul.
And the
Forgetting
brand?
Koji?
Oh, Koji. Okay.
Yeah, it's like kind of
Like-
like Linktree, but better.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool, and his talk was actually really good. I got to know Paul, the dude who works there, over
Wow.
the couple days. I mean, I feel like I talked to literally everyone there because no one was on their phones.
Do you feel like it was a good learning experience or a good networking experience? Or
I feel like it was both. Like, you know, when we were figuring out the schedule, at first we were like, we should put in like time specifically to talk about creator stuff. And I was like, people are gonna do that anyway. Like, we don't need to put that on the schedule. And it literally turned into that where it was 80% just hanging out and talking, which obviously inevitably talked a lot about creator stuff. But it didn't feel like networking because it felt like summer camp, like, which was kind of awesome. Like we did like dodgeball and like random games like that, and it was very wholesome. And
Reminds me of when I went with Sony
Mm.
Sony Camera Camp. That was some
Mhm.
awesome experience.
Did you guys have your own rooms or were you bunking or was
had
it
a
sleeping
roommate.
bags?
The guys, all the girls, there's like 10 girls and like 20 guys, and so the girls all had like cool rooms like on the top floor with like one roommate, and then all the guys were piled in like on the bottom.
Like
in the basement.
sardines.
Yeah, it was great. We loved the anti-sexism. It was awesome.
Serves them right.
But apparently they had a lot of fun. So
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure it was very
It was
fun.
great.
Do you feel like doing this like once a year is good, or do you think like it should be
Yeah.
like every 6 months? Like, would you do it
I feel
again
like
in a
I
few
think
months?
I would definitely do it again, but I think every year is probably a good number. Just like connect with people. Yeah, we'll see. I think it was great. I liked that it wasn't brand run, like it was run by like a group of 5 people, creators.
Are we going to be able
They're
to
just
see
sponsors.
some of the stuff that you filmed out there?
I mean, I didn't film that much. I feel like a lot of people didn't film. It was very like
So people were present.
yeah, like there was
Mhm.
obviously people filming, but I'd say like maybe a third were filming like for an actual
Oh,
video
wow.
or something.
Mhm.
Other people were just getting like random clips for stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
was-
I needed to be around people who were like around my age and just kind of like getting started / moving. Like
Mhm.
so that was really nice.
Well, generally you're around like people who are older and more established, so I think that
Yeah.
that can be something. Like I think
I
that can
think
be intimidating too, like to not to like
exactly.
the comparison thing we can't help but do, like seeing more. I deal with that because like a lot of people I'm around sometimes are like, you know, they're 10 years older than me, their house is almost paid off or some crap like that. So it's like
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So it was nice. You know, I don't know. It was kind of cool that no one could like look at everyone's stuff, you know, when you're talking to people. It was very organic and
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like social media didn't exist.
yeah, but then ironically we're all creators.
Brought you together. But it's the thing that like because again, I don't think that social media is inherently bad. I think that it's like I think that for the average person, it's inherently addictive and unproductive and has a lot of other, it exacerbates underlying existing problems.
Mm.
But I think it's great that it brings people who are like-minded together who would never meet otherwise, though. So, you know.
Yes. Okay, but I do have to go now. I'm getting yelled
All right. Okay, bye, Audrey.
Alrighty. I think we
Should I
can
just-
sign off too.
Yeah, I'll stay for the outro.
All right, let's we can wrap it up if you want.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to No Assembly Required Podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Tune in next week where Roberto will try not to get triggered by anything and where we will have another exciting row of topics for you. This has been your trio of hosts signing off, including Romina with the good hair, Audrey, sometimes late Ember, and of course, your Dark Lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.